Decathlon and all of its brands have always been famous for affordable prices, affordable products, and this shoe is a bit different. It comes at 140 euros, but is it any good? Let's find out. Hey everyone, and welcome back on the channel. My name is Alex. In today's video, we're looking at the KIPRUN KS900.2. This is the second iteration of the KS900, the premium trainer in the KIPRUN lineup. Remember, KIPRUN is the running brand of Decathlon. Decathlon is a sports company based in France, but famous worldwide, I guess. So yeah, KIPRUN now has is a separate brand, and they're naming their products only KIPRUN. So you will hear a lot of KIPRUN in the coming month, I guess. We received this shoe from KIPRUN, and we're actually working with KIPRUN, but we are not paid to say anything good or bad about the shoe. It's just an honest and transparent review as always. There's some good things to say about it, also some bad things. Let's look at the specs of this shoe. We have 39 millimeters of stack height in the heel. That's a lot of foam under the heel and under the foot in general. 33 in the forefoot, 6 millimeters drop. This shoe comes at 328 grams in my size US 11 EU 45, which is honestly on the heavier side of things for a daily trainer. Some daily trainers, some popular ones like the Nike Invincible and so on, are more in that 310, 320 range. Some lighter ones recently, like the New Balance 1080 V13, are around 290 grams in my size. So yeah, this is a bit heavier. It also runs a bit heavier, but it's not a huge drawback when it comes to daily trainer. Let's look at the upper of this shoe, and the upper is actually quite interesting because I don't know if you can tell, but it's a stretchy material. Especially here in the forefoot, also here on the lateral and medial side, you have a bit of stretchiness. It gets a bit more rigid here towards the end of the midfoot, and then the heel cup is actually super rigid, super stout, very, very padded and very thick. It feels like a robust heel where your heel actually sits very nicely. So yeah, the stretchiness is mostly here in the forefoot. The tongue is also a tiny bit stretchy, I don't know if you can tell. The upper material, I think, is interesting here because it feels better than on some previous KIPRUN shoes like the KD900X, the KD900, and even recently the KD900 Lite. All of these shoes have an abrasive upper that is not super pleasant against the foot. You tend to forget it when you run, but the first contact with the shoe isn't the best in my opinion. This is much better. This is much more comfortable. You have that nice stepping feel, and yeah, the welcome sensation in the shoe is better. One drawback, and I don't know if KIPRUN will hear me out, but having the tag attached to the tongue of the shoe is not the friendliest thing you encounter when you step into the shoe. So I would just tend to remove it and put it attach it on the sock liner or somewhere else in the shoe. I guess they do it for good reasons. Everything at Decathlon is well thought out. But it's just not super welcoming, and I think when someone picks a shoe off a shelf and wants to try it, if they encounter that tag and the first sensation against the top of their foot is a tag on the tongue, maybe not the best, but that's just like a small side note. So the good thing about the upper is that it will accommodate a lot of different foot shapes and foot volumes. It has a lot of volume, it offers a lot of volume, it offers a lot of width. So definitely many people will be able to enjoy this. On the other hand, the drawback is that if, like myself or some other people, you have an average width, an average volume in your feet, yeah, it feels a bit roomy. And I had to swap insoles to create a bit more, to reduce the volume inside the shoe because it feels quite roomy, and the stretchiness of the upper doesn't help to feel a bit more snug in that shoe. I tried it half a size down and it could have worked, but I always tend to go for my true to size US 11, also because I want to give you an equal comparison between shoes, and comparing apples to apples is also comparing the same size against the same size time over time. So half down may be an option. Just go to your Decathlon store and try it out. Laces are not the best laces. The laces themselves are actually okay. What doesn't necessarily work super well is the eyelets here. They're very tiny holes and the laces tend to get stuck in them. I've had a couple of defects in my eyelets, not on this shoe, but on a previous shoe that I ran with a bit earlier this year. The laces were glued into the eyelet So small defects, but again, that's kind of hindering the experience of the user. So upper, let's say so-so. I think it's a good thing that it will accommodate many people, but I think it also could become better. Nevertheless, it's a step up compared to previous uppers in KIPRUN shoes. Where this shoe is actually really interesting is the midsole, and you have that M foam, which is an EVA-based midsole. EVA sounds boring, and in many shoes is boring. It's not super exciting in this shoe, but it's much more exciting than in other KIPRUN shoes in the past. Again, KIPRUN is progressing, is improving, and this midsole is also a sign of that improvement. When I say it's not super exciting, that's mostly comparing against similar shoes in that price range and also in that same category, meaning maximalist shoes. I'm obviously referring to the Invincible, the 1080, the More V4, especially when comparing to the More V4 and the 1080, which I think have similar, similar rides to this shoe. The fresh foam that you find with New Balance shoes is a bit softer, much bouncier, and if you're looking for that more, cushioned experience, not necessarily cushioned because this is also very cushioned. Yeah, bouncy experience, responsive experience, that's going to be more with some other shoes. This shoe has a lot of cushion and a lot of that dampening effect. You can really feel how it absorbs the shocks, absorbs the vibrations, doesn't necessarily return much, and that's EVA and the issue of EVA, or the properties of EVA, not necessarily issues. That's how this shoe works. It absorbs a lot, especially when you're a heel striker. You can really push down, put a lot of weight in your heel strike, and this shoe will absorb. It has that dampening effect again. It feels quite flat. That 6 millimeters feels actually quite flat, so you don't have much of that rolling effect. You land in the heel, you just have the shoe absorbing, compressing, and then you just transition to your toe-off phase, but more, let's say, naturally than with a rocker or than with any stiffening element in the shoe that would propel you forward, if that makes sense. No ground feel whatsoever, 33 millimeters in the forefoot, you can't feel anything. It actually works quite well on some gravel, packed dust, again, because of that very high stack height, but also because the density and the compression set of that midsole isn't too low, meaning that it doesn't, it doesn't roll too much from side to side. You don't have too much of that medial collapsing effect in the shoe, and it's quite stable. Outsole, there's a lot of coverage, and this shoe will go for 1,200 kilometers. This is probably one of the most durable shoes you can find on the market. This is also in the Decathlon DNA. Affordable products that go for a long time, and this shoe is one of them. As you can see, the grooves in this shoe are actually quite interesting because they offer quite some flex here in the forefoot, and that's also part of the natural ride in this shoe. You also have those grooves coming from heel to toe, and these kind of help align your foot strike, which is also a good thing. Price point, 140 euros. And that's where I think we can have an interesting debate. Is 140 euros affordable? Is it in the Decathlon KIPRUN DNA to have shoes at 140 euros? I don't know, honestly. It's their strategy, their decisions. I think that some people may be surprised to find shoes at 140 euros on a Decathlon shelf. At least KIPRUN branded shoes at 140 because they also sell some other brands that are more expensive in Decathlon stores. That being said, when you look at the grand scheme of things and you compare it against, again, the More V4, 1080, Nimbus 2526, Invincible, all these shoes are in between 160 to 180 euros, even 200 for some of the Max Cushion daily trainers. Therefore, it's not that bad. So, it's again very relative. If you are a long-time KIPRUN client and you have always paid 90, 100, 110, up to 120 maybe sometimes for specific shoes, and here you find a shoe at 140 that may be not necessarily the best selling point or the best price tag that you would expect to find. If you come from other brands and you try this, you're looking for that Max Cushion boy that will take you forever and ever on easy runs, maybe 140 isn't too bad in the end. I think it's working not too bad because this shoe is apparently selling like hotcakes, and it's not available anymore in many stores, and even online is hard to find. So to some extent, I would assume that their strategy, KIPRUN strategy, is paying off, and they succeeded in creating that Max Cushion shoe that sells well and competes well against other shoes in the market. What would I like to see? Obviously, a more KIPRUN price point, so maybe 130 euros, but even, let's assume 140. I would like to see a slightly more exciting foam. It can still be EVA, but let's make it, let's infuse it, let's make it a bit less dense and therefore a bit more bouncy. Let's make this shoe a bit more fun. It's a serious and successful shoe for the brief, I would assume, but I would work on the midsole first and then on the upper. I'm not a huge fan of the upper, but I think the shoe can live with that upper. I would, if I was KIPRUN, I would play a bit on the midsole and make it slightly more fun, slightly more bouncy, and that would certainly attract more customers too. Thanks a lot for watching. Enjoy your run today, enjoy your ride. Let's link to the review of the KS900 Lite, a review that we published in 2021, if I remember well, 2022 maybe. And that's going to be also a nice comparison. This shoe is still available at Decathlon, so maybe you wanna check that review. Thanks for watching.